Hello, everyone. You know that was me trying to wait until all of the digital stuff catches up. It's hard to know. I'm Becky, and I'd like to thank you for joining me this Wednesday for a timeout. I know it's hard to take time out of your day, and I appreciate you joining me. And if you aren't here right now when I'm actually talking, I appreciate you joining me when you do have time. Behind me is, let's see if I can do this way. Behind me is Birds in Toyland again. And it's up there because the class, which is on Creative Spark, that first class filled up just like that. And I really felt kind of guilty because there were a whole lot of people on the waiting list. So I looked at my calendar and I added 2 more classes. This will be it till fall because my calendar only has so much room on it. So if you are interested in taking the class, and right now that is the only place to get these patterns, and I'm not doing that to be cruel and unusual, it's because of the lag time between finishing a quilt, turning in a manuscript, and the thing going to print. So the deadline I am working like crazy on right now is actually the deadline for this book. I haven't even turned in the stuff yet for the book to go into print, which will happen about a year from now. But I did make all the videos for the classes, which is why the class is there first and then the book will come later. Gosh, that's a long explanation. I'm sorry it took so long. You can find the class. There's got to be a link on my website. I'm pretty sure there is. And then it should be in the comments, or you can Google Creative Spark or Birds in Toyland, and goodness knows, I hope it comes up. Okay, I'll put a link. That's what I'll do. On the YouTube video, I'll put a link to where the classes are. So, what are we talking about today? It's spring. It's tidying up time. And even though I hardly have time to do it, I have been wanting to tidy up my collection of thread for weeks. And the Yazzii thread organizers that I wanted finally came in. So let me show you my thread as it was until a couple of days ago. Okay, so real world, that's where my thread is. At least part of it. I'll show you where the rest of it is. And I kind of know what's in each drawer, but I don't really know what's in each drawer. Even if I know what kind of thread is in the drawer, I've got to stack it sometimes 3 deep, as I do here with my 80 weight Aurifil, and I can't see what I'm looking for. This is the other place I have thread, and it's thread I don't use very often. I got it when I wrote the thread book. Every now and then I pull something out of this drawer, but really I could use the drawer for other things. So this too is going to get organized. This is the Yazzii 100 Plus Ultimate Thread Organizer. And I've decided this is what I'm going to put my thread in. It's going to take more than one of these. Yeah, it took 3 of them. Anyway, the next video will show you how I organized my thread inside the organizer. Now, the reason it says 100 plus, it could also say 100 plus or minus, because the number of spools you can fit in the organizer depends entirely on the size of the spools. Small spools, you can fit more. Bigger spools, you fit less. As you watch the next video, I want you to look at, or kind of pay attention to, the kinds of colors of thread that I have, and the fact that I don't have only thread from one manufacturer. I'll get back to that. Okay, here we go. I showed you where my thread was in the little drawers. Now I want to show you where it is inside the Yazzii Ultimate Thread Organizer. Amazingly enough, it took 3 thread organizers for me to get everything where I wanted it. One of the most interesting parts about this is that when my thread was buried in the drawers, I thought I had a lot more of certain kinds of thread and a lot less of others. So it's made me very much aware of what I've got and what I might still need. I have some holes in the colors in my wool thread collection that I will add to as needed. These are 80 weight Aurifils, and as it turns out, I have a lot of 80 weight Aurifil, and I'm glad I do, because I use it sometimes for hand applique and sometimes for machine applique, and for that I need a wide variety of colors. These are my 28 weight threads. Some are by Aurifil, some are by Mettler. I hand piece with these pretty often. That's what's inside this organizer. I have room for a little more thread, which is nice because I will probably add a little bit more thread to this one. I could put something in the outside of this organizer, and one of the things I might put here is a note to myself telling me what's inside. In fact, I probably will, because from the outside, I can't tell what it is. This organizer has 12 weight pearl cotton. The Aurifil spools are smaller and they fit better in the organizer. The Wonderfil spools are bigger. There's more thread on the spools. They fit okay. This is a very stuffed organizer, but it all fits. And I have more 12 weight pearl cotton, but it's on balls. I'll show you where I put it later. I thought about this through the night and wondered if I didn't have too much of this. But you know what? Now that I look at it, I'm thinking, no, this is about right. I don't need to add a whole lot of thread to this, especially knowing I have the balls of Presencia elsewhere. No, this is a nice collection. I don't need more, but there's none of it that I want to make go away. That's good to know, right? So I will zip that up. And for this one, having the 12 weight pearl cotton on the outside pocket, that tells me what's inside. So this is Yazzii number 3. I was surprised I needed a number 3. These are my masterpiece cottons that are on spools. I have more that are on cones. That needs to be organized too, but that won't work in one of these. And these are different kinds of 50 weight and 60 weight threads from different companies. So there's some Gutermann and some Wonderfil and Mettler. I've got some that's from Coats and Clark and more from Mettler. These are Aurifil 50 weight threads right here. And it's interesting because some of the spools look more orange and some more red. I don't know why. I have a nice selection of Superior's Pima cotton. This is a 50 weight 2-ply thread, so finer than the Masterpiece, but still strong and nice to sew with. These are Wonderfil's 50 weight thread that I got primarily for piecing, but it would also work for machine quilting. I've got a nice group of colors here, not too many, especially if I figure that I've got thread on cones that I use for both piecing and quilting. Okay, so I used to have a lot more thread than that, way more thread than that. And somewhere about a year ago, I looked at that old thread and thought, some of that thread was 30 years old. I do not necessarily want to sew with 30-year-old thread or 20-year-old thread, or in some cases maybe even 10-year-old thread, which means that you might not need to buy every thread in every color just because it's there. And, you know, I like a neat and tidy collection as well as the next person. But manufacturers our thread manufacturers make really excellent thread. And I've talked to you before about the variations, say, between the different 50 weight threads from company to company to company. Each thread is really kind of different. And so I would not want to exclude, say for instance, I would not want to only have superior thread and not have Aurifil just because it wouldn't look tidy in the group. They all make good thread. So that's why inside my collection, I've got a pretty nice variety of kinds and companies. Okay. And I know it's weird for me because let's face it, I do sell you stuff to say maybe you don't need everything. In this case with thread, I don't think you need absolutely every color and every weight. Okay, next up, you might have noticed that there wasn't any applique thread there. I mean, other than the 80 weight Aurifil. Let me show you why. You might be wondering where my giant collection of applique thread is. It's not actually that giant of a collection. I work off the bobbin. These are pre-wound bobbins from Superior. I sell these on my site. The soft collection and the bright collection each have 25 colors that are different from each other, and I can almost always find what I need here. I've worked off the bobbins for so many years though that I have spare bobbins. So during this tidying up of my thread process, I did go through all of my spare bobbins, and I'm making go away the ones that were not very full or that they were duplicates, or used to be they came on cardboard bobbins and they were worn out. I made those go away. So now I have a really giant collection of applique thread in these boxes. And if you're wondering, yes, I do carry the empty boxes. We may be out right now this minute, but we'll get more. You know why we're out right now this minute? It's because we only had 3 and I used them. I only felt a little bit guilty about doing that. Okay, now the next thing I want to show you has to do with the Yazzies in particular. And I've said this more than once in a variety of places, and I'm going to say it again. There are a lot of Yazzii products like these little boxes. This is the Mini Organizer Large. And can I just say, I don't understand how they name their stuff, because there's mini organizers in other sizes and they still call them minis. What changes is the large or the extra large or whatever. Kind of drives me nuts. Anyway, inside here, there are different pouches. And you might love having the pouch sewn into the unit. I do not love the pouches sewn into the unit. I take the pouches out and use them as movable objects. So inside each one of these, you'll see they're just sewn in. They're finished on the bottom, the pouches are. They're sewn in, and you can use your seam ripper and loosen the seam. You can either do it from the inside or from the outside. So those lines of stitching there, that's what's holding the pouches inside. Okay, so just keep that in mind when you watch what's coming next. Let's see here. Before I leave the thread collection altogether, I want to mention a couple of things. For the thread, I very specifically chose a black Yazzii. In all the other cases, I like colorful Yazziis most of the time. But in this case, I didn't want the color of the Yazzii to interfere for me with the color of the thread. Now, it may be very different for you. The other colors may not bother you one tiny little bit. The other thing is that this center pouch is sewn into the larger unit. And I think for the thread, that's going to suit me fine, leaving it sewn in. But in all the Yazziis, the little boxes that have the sewn in pouches, they're just sewn in with thread. and you have a seam ripper, if you want to, you can go in and separate the pouch from the Yazzii. And it's finished at the bottom in the same way that the pouch is finished at the side, it's finished at the bottom. There might actually be a time when I would want some kinds of thread in the center that I can pick up and take with me without carrying the whole bag. It's something to consider. The other thing is that even though this is designed as a thread pouch, it would be dandy for holding other things, other kinds of notions. I'm thinking scissors or pins, needles, all kinds of stuff. And if that was the case, if you had, say, thread on the outside and this was full of notions and separate, so that when you're, say, at a class or in your studio or wherever, this could be carried separately from that, that might be really handy. I know Yazzii makes a thread organizer that holds balls of thread, but it doesn't really suit my space. And I already have the bins with the drawers. And the bins with the drawers are great for these balls of thread. And what I did was put the 12 weight stacked this way inside the drawer, and my 8 weight pearl cotton going the other way. And I turned these on their side just to hold everything in place a little bit more. And I've still got room for more balls of thread, which is good because I suspect I'll be adding to this. Remember I said you could take the pouches out of the Yazzii. This is a pouch that I took out of a bigger Yazzii some time back. And what I put in here are these weird seagrass threads that they were just loose in the drawer before. Now I've got them together. It's handy. I like that better. And I decided not to open a 4th thread organizer for the rest of these threads because now I had enough empty drawers. I'm using this drawer for hand quilting threads. These are all hand quilting threads. And these are mostly 30 weight and 40 weight cottons. These are 60 weight threads, and I wanted to keep them separate. This pouch is part of a set of 3 pouches, and I used the other 2 bigger pouches elsewhere, you'll see in a second. This is where I put my 100% polyester thread. Some of it's metallic, some of it's shiny. I may never use this for anything, but I already own it, so I figured I'd keep it tidy. I can see what I've got really easily. It's contained. Perfect. Okay, you might notice that what's in that drawer holding that thread is they're not little cute boxes. I Marie Kondo'd much of my house many years ago, and what Marie Kondo says is you should not have to go out and buy little cute organizers if you already have something like the bottom of a stationery box or a box that fits a certain drawer. Use that. And that's what I've been doing. And you know, it works really well. The next time you buy note cards or stationery or Christmas cards, the bottom of those boxes, they're really handy. Those were in some of the drawers. And then I think, you know, the idea of tidying for me, I like to have something lovely to look at the end. And that last drawer was kind of a big mess. Sort of, except that it was organized. So even if it's not visually pleasing, if the objects are where they need to be so that I can find them when I want them, I'll take that over visually lovely. All right, the other thing I was going to say, you know, in passing, I mentioned why I got the black thread organizers. It's the same reason why I wanted the project pouch in black. Mostly when I've got something in here, I might not be distracted by the color of the Yazzii against the project that's inside. But my reasoning for wanting black there was because it's kind of a neutral. It's a dark neutral. I like it. So black. All my other Yazzies are in color, but those two things, the thread and the project, I'm sticking with black. Okay, the next thing is, oh, my needles. So as I said, I'm on deadline. I didn't have a lot of time to tidy, but there were two other drawers that just really, as long as I was doing it, I figured, what the hey, I'll do that too. As long as I'm at it, I'm also going to tidy up my needles and pins because I can never find what I'm looking for when I'm looking for it. I took that mess of needles apart and sorted them by kind and used a variety of Yazzii pouches, some new, some that I had before, so this is a new set of 2. So I've got those. These are embroidery and crewel needles. This is a bag of sharps, mostly used for hand applique, but there's also some giant sharps in here that work for embroidery. Milliner's needles are in here. I used to use milliner's needles a lot. I don't so much anymore, so I'm going to put that toward the bottom. These are hand quilting needles. These are my number 9 piecing needles that don't really go in any other case. And some Sue Spargo needles that are kind of random, but I didn't know where they would go either. So they go together. These are my self-threading needles, and I've got a giant wool upholstery needle in there. This is a wool thing that I made a few years ago, and I've got a variety of pins in it. Every now and then, this is handy to carry with me somewhere, and it's already together, so I just kept that. I'm putting it in there. I found these needle threaders. I will be using those, and it makes sense to me to put them in there with the needles. And as long as those are in there, I'm going to put my other needle threader in there as well. Doesn't it make sense to have the needle threader with the needles? So there we go. This takes up more space in the drawer than it did in the small cubby where I had them stuck in the other drawer. But I can find what I'm looking for a lot easier now. I like this better already. I really do. You have no idea how often I would go looking for a needle and hunt, and you know, you think you've got something and you can't find it. I hate that part. So, and it's a colorful drawer now because I've got all different colors of Yazzies. So my last areas of untidiness were the drawers with my rotary cutters and my scissors. Take a look. And as long as I'm at it, if I can figure out how to make my scissors tidier and my rotary cutters, shoot, I'm going to do that too. This is my newly tidied rotary cutter drawer. I'm going to give away one of the rotary cutters that I never use. I decided to hold on to this one, although I rarely use it. I've separated by type, small ones, hardly ever use it. The ones I use the most at the front. This is the tin. By the way, it's a leftover Lolo tin. It's perfect for used blades. I have more blades over there. There's my rotary cutters. I carry a variety of Yazzii pouches, just the pouches, not sewn into anything. This is the set of 3 envelope size. This is a set that has 3 that go small, medium, and large. They're more square. And then there is a set that has 2 this size. I like all of these, and I used all of them in one place or another. So up until yesterday, this drawer was full of a whole bunch of scissors, all different sizes, all different kinds, all clanking together. It always made me feel guilty when I opened this and the scissors were just sort of running into each other. So what I did with my scissors was use a variety of pouches to sort them by size and shape. These are my giant scissors. They went in the biggest of the envelope pouches. These are serrated scissors. This is the next size down in that envelope pouch set. The smaller pouch has thread in it over in the drawer of thread. This size pouch that you can buy in sets of 2, this particular one actually came out of one of the Yazzii organizers, and it's got smooth bladed scissors. This has paper scissors. And this is my collection of Dovo scissors that goes way back. I don't use them very much anymore, but they're still really nice scissors. Someday somebody will inherit these and be very glad I kept them. This pouch has my inexpensive blunt-ended scissors. When I travel and I might be afraid that scissors would be confiscated, I would use a pair of these. And then these are extra scissor charms that were just loose in there. And I have one Kohana little snip that I'm holding on to in case I lose my other one. And I have that very cute scissor case. And this is the scissor I use almost all the time. When I'm cutting fabric, I decided it could live on top of the group right there. The Yazzii pouches here do not necessarily make the space smaller and more compact. You know, sometimes when you tidy, that's the goal. What this does is separate my scissors by kind so that I can find what I'm looking for, and it makes me happy that they're no longer a big mess in the drawer. I'm glad I did this. It's the same as the needles, right? Being able to find what you need is really good. So my thread that came out of the drawers is in the thread organizers, and I had space on the shelf. They're just in the shelf. They look nice up there, and that they're the same color, that's a win. And the black works in my studio. The other spaces, like where my needles came out, I was able to spread out my pins and make them fit better. And I've got a couple of empty drawers that I don't know what I'm going to put in them yet. I'm going to let them be empty for a little while. Now, here's a question I was thinking this morning, because we are quilters and we can sew. Would you want to make your own pouches? Maybe, but why? Why? If you look at the way the Yazziis are made, they're really well made. It would take time, effort, and materials. If you already owned all the zippers and the quilted material and the plastic and you have all the time in the world, yeah, maybe it would make sense to make your own. I don't do that. You know, I didn't do that. So there's that to consider too. Yes, you could always make your own pouches if you wanted to. One other thing I wanted to show, because this was one I have already organized some time back. I'm going to make that Velcro noise. This is the Yazzii for sewing machine feet. I didn't think I needed it, but as it turns out, I kind of like it. You could put other stuff in the sewing machine feet organizer, but it's so perfect for your sewing machine feet. I didn't. Okay, what other question? There's lots of other Yazziis, and I've got them on my website, the ones I like the best. I think I've given you an idea about how to use them. The one I'm probably going to be using next that I'm going to load for a road trip coming up is this one. It's the Petite Extra Large Organizer, and I like the open side on one side, and I'll take the little pouches out. But that one, yeah, I think I'm going to put some stuff in that and take it with me. So that's it. I organized. Now, it took a couple of 3 hours to deal with the thread that I didn't think I had time to do, that it turns out that I did. I'm really glad I took the time to do it. That does not mean this has to turn into some giant organizational job. So if you are looking at different spaces in your studio and you're thinking, man, I'd like to organize that, but it's going to take a week because I have to do everything else. No, you don't. You really don't. Pick a thing that you want to make tidier. Do that thing. Bask in the joy of its tidiness and sort of forget about the rest until you have the time and motivation to deal with it too. So I hope this is helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do, let's see here, I want to pull this up. Please do let me know if there's anything you'd like me to talk about. I happily take suggestions because at some point I'm likely to, think, oh, I know, that's right. Judy was going to remind me. I did want to remind you guys, the class, the Empty Spools is the 5-day seminar that is on again this coming, when am I doing it? I'm doing it in March, this coming March. My class is an independent study, which means you can work on absolutely anything. Doesn't have to be one of my patterns. It can be anything. In my class for 5 days, and I'm there to help you with whatever questions you've got. It's a wonderful place. It's on the Monterey Peninsula, right on the coast. It's beautiful. And if you are interested in signing up, I don't know how many spaces are left in the class, but they do fill up. So Empty Spools, the class registration is open. I wanted to say that. Thank you, Judy, for reminding me. Let me see if there was one other thing. I don't think so. So I'm back to this. If you have questions, please email me. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about. And I will see you next Wednesday at 2 o'clock Central Time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you then.